The mission of this channel is to expose the horrors of the antebellum slave system, of the slaveocracy that was the antebellum South, the slave society, not simply a society with slaves. And to that end, I often search through the news to find articles about Confederate monuments and the resurgence of neo-Confederatism and Confederate worship. Now, one article that came up, and this article was actually done in August, so it's been some time, but it's still relevant, came from the National Park Service, and it's concerning the statue of Albert Pike. Albert Pike was a Confederate general, and his statue was the only statue of a Confederate general in the public outside in Washington, D.C. Now, his statue was toppled during one of the Black Lives Matter protests. However, the National Park Service under the Trump administration is planning on having it reinstalled. So let's do a little background on Albert Pike and see if this is someone that we should really be honoring outside in public in the nation's capital. And as you know, I have said many times that Confederate monuments of these Confederate war heroes absolutely need to be removed. They need to be taken down. They don't belong in public. If they want to be put in museums, that's fine. That's a great place for us to continue to learn about history and the horrible part of our history that was the antebellum slaveocracy and the Confederacy, but they have no place being in the open, in public like that. So let's do a little background on Albert Pike and see who he was, and again, let's come to a conclusion on whether or not this man deserves a statue in our nation's capital out in public. He was a brigadier general in the Confederate Army, which we have to remember was a military force created to protect and defend a nation that its first and only vice president said was founded upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. So that's the army, that's the government that Pike was sworn in as a flag officer, as a general officer, to fight and defend. Now, the interesting thing is that Pike was born in Boston and raised in New England. So it just supports what I've said all along, that the entire country was racist at the time. But again, that's a topic for something else. But just to point out that it wasn't just Confederates in the South who were racist bigots. You found that all over the country. However, the Confederacy was the country that seceded and created itself in order to protect and defend the institution of African slavery forever. And that was the stated purpose of the Confederacy. So, continuing with Pike, forgetting just about the racism and bigotry of his service and what he planned to do and what he dedicated his life for, but his service as a soldier was even a bit shaky and questionable, which is why you have to wonder, why do we even want a Pike memorial? Even the most Confederate, the most ardent Confederate sympathizer, someone who, waves the stars and bars and hoots and hollers to the Confederacy, I would think that they should have a problem with glorifying and honoring Albert Pike. Pike organized a Native American group, a Native American regiment or unit that was loyal to the Confederacy that would go on to scalp Union soldiers. And he wasn't, really okay with this, but it was happening anyway. He was also then accused of insubordination, mishandling money, refusing to follow orders, and he was actually ordered to be arrested. So he was a terrible commander whose unit was committing war crimes by scalping Union soldiers. He was insubordinate. He was embezzling or mishandling money. He wouldn't follow orders, and this eventually culminated in him being ordered arrested. He was allowed to resign his commission, and he eventually went on to serve as an associate justice on the Arkansas Supreme Court, which was in exile under the Confederacy. So he was the Confederate Associate Supreme Court Justice of the Arkansas Confederate government in exile until 1865. So what storied, honored military legacy or tradition does this man have? Why do we want to honor him, a war criminal, an embezzler, insubordinate? He actually was put in prison or in jail for a period of time before they let them resign his commission. So this doesn't seem like someone we want a statue to, or even if you are a Confederate sympathizer, like pick someone else at least. So Pike, like most of the men who fought alongside him to preserve and protect the Confederacy, was militantly racist. After the war, he is recorded as insisting that, quote, The white race and that race alone shall govern this country. It is the only one that is fit to govern, and it is the only one that shall, end quote. So, I mean, I'm baffled that we even allow the discussion over whether or not we should reinstate monuments like to individuals like Pike is a discussion we're having in the United States in 2025. These are people who fought to create a nation that was based on the idea that the white race is superior and that the natural condition for someone of African descent was in a state of slavery. Pike fought for this idea. Pike was a flag officer. He was a brigadier general to defend this country, to fight for this concept of white supremacy. And on top of that, he wasn't even a good soldier. He was a criminal. He was insubordinate. His unit committed war crimes. On top of all of this, let's make a statue to this man. Now, Pike was also a Freemason, which is another reason why his statue was probably put up in Washington. And his racism extended into this organization as well. He's quoted as saying in 1875 that, quote, "I took my obligations from white men, not from Negroes. When I have to accept Negroes as brothers or leave Masonry, I shall leave it. Better let the thing drift," end quote. So again, there's not much more that needs to be said. Albert Pike was a racist. He was a criminal. He was, not a good soldier, even though he, fighting for the Confederacy aside. So all of this, why are we even having discussion of whether or not this statue should be reinstated or brought back or put back in Washington, D.C.? The move to have Confederate monuments to Confederate heroes put back all over the United States is something that we need to be actively fighting and politicking against and doing the best we can to make sure that it doesn't happen. So thank you again for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and I will see you for the next video.